Darth Theorist, rise.
What if old Obi-Wan turned Darth Vader back to the light on the Death Star? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Obi-Wan stares at the dark-armored figure who advances upon him with sad eyes. Though his helmet hides who he is to the rest of the galaxy, it cannot hide the boy he knew growing up. It left him momentarily lost in thought as the Dark Lord advanced upon him, lightsaber ready. Instead of stepping back, Obi-Wan readies himself, gripping his lightsaber tightly.
Are you truly prepared to do this, my friend?
I have been ready for this moment for almost 20 years, my former master. You do not know how long I have waited for this moment. How long I've dreamed of paying you back for what you've done to me, and put an end to the Jedi Order.
You think it will end me, Anakin? Tell me, did you think I came here on a whim? There is more than you realize. More about the people I came with.
Jedi, they shall die just as you will.
Still so blind, my former Padawan. You have truly gotten so narrow-minded that you cannot see the truth.
Enough of your riddles. Say what you wish and prepare yourself to die.
They are your children. The twins.
What? No. You are lying.
He roars and springs forward, bringing his lightsaber down. It should be a killing blow against most opponents, but Obi-Wan remains quick despite his age. His own lightsaber comes up and blocks his strike. Vader does not let him withdraw, coming down at him in a storm of attacks. He lets the sound of his lightsaber fill his ears, if only so he does not have to think about what Obi-Wan is saying. And yet, he does think about it. All this time, he believed his children to be dead. That was what the Emperor had told him. He had no reason to believe otherwise. But for the first time in many years, doubt began to creep in his chest. If this was a trick by Obi-Wan, it worked, as Vader does not fight with the same killer instinct he normally possesses. His blows are off, and his movements are less graceful. It allows the Jedi to just barely stay alive. However, he does not take the chance and goes to the offensive. Rather, the Jedi remains blocking and halting his attacks until Vader manages to score a lucky shot and manages to graze Obi-Wan's shoulder. He stands over his fallen master and prepares to bring his lightsaber down. He tells himself that everything Obi-Wan said was a lie. The Jedi was just trying to take him off guard. Vader momentarily squashes the doubt in his chest as he raises his weapon high. But then he hears footsteps and sees the rest of the stowaways approaching. One of them, a young blonde boy, notices him and takes aim. Vader easily blocks the blaster bolt. "Ben, run!" As his voice echoes through the halls, Vader feels his body stiffen. The sound rocks him to his very core, and from that voice he hears her, the hint of Padme in him, the hint of himself. It is all the confirmation he needs, and Obi-Wan realizes it as well. He sees how Vader struggles to make sense of it as the seed of doubt is planted in his mind. It is enough to cause him to second-guess himself, and he seizes the chance to run away. Just as Vader turns, he sees his former master running, being supported by Luke as they make their escape. Rather than chase them, he simply stares at the ship as the boarding ramp raises and takes off. Although TIE fighters are sent after them, Vader does not join them. The normal thrill of chasing down and destroying enemy ships is lost as his body stands numb. He gives an order not to be disturbed as he returns to his chambers. Once there, he closes his eyes and tries to clear his head as the Death Star makes its way over to Yavin 4. He tells himself that Obi-Wan is lying to him, just as he had before. The Emperor said as much, and yet how many times has the Emperor lied to him? For the first time since his transformation, Vader does not simply accept what Palpatine tells him. That had always just been the easy way out, better than questioning what he was doing and what he was becoming. For the first time, he has reason to, because if he destroys Yavin 4, then there is a chance he may destroy the last memories of Padme as well. Vader feels the stinging pain from his suit, leaving his head arcing back as he looks within himself, yet he ignores it as he had before, focusing on what truly matters, reaching out to the Force beyond the powers he controls. The presence is faint, as he had only encountered it for a brief moment, but he feels the spark of the boy he saw on the Death Star. His body trembles as a familiar feeling washes over him, like an old friend greeting for the first time in many years. It is a similar spark to what Padme was like. Suddenly, the hangar doors open, and Tarkin announces that they have reached Yavin 4. The station roars to life as crewmen run back and forth, arming defensive weapons, checking systems, and double-checking that everything is ready as they prepare to open fire. However, as the Death Star gets into position, the Rebel Alliance begins scrambling fighters. Among them, he senses that same presence, and this removes all doubt in his mind as he turns to Tarkin.
Halt the attack. I mean to parley with the rebels.
What? Are you insane, Lord Vader? Now of all times? When we are this close to destroying their headquarters?
It is precisely because we are so close to destroying them that I am confident they might be made to see reason.
A fine assessment, but I would much rather see them completely destroyed at this point as a warning to other would-be insurgents. Or have you forgotten who controls this facility, Lord?
Vader's hand suddenly rise up, causing the governor to lift off the ground and let out a strangled cry. Around him, the bridge crew cries out in alarm. Some of the guards draw blasters and fire, but Vader raises his other hand and deflects them before turning to Tarkin and looking into his eyes, before crushing his neck. His lightsaber rips free from his belt, and the Dark Lord cuts down every guard and Imperial officer in the room before locking the doors behind him. He glances over at the frightened bridge crew and orders them to power down the main weapon and open a direct channel to the base. As the rebel squadron weaves through the trenches and dodges laser bolts, things seem remarkably easy. No TIE fighters come out to intercept them, and the turrets do not fire as intensely as expected. Luke and the others take the lead as they begin their run, at least until a message from their base crackles through.
All fighters. The Death Star is disabling its main weapon. We're receiving a message from Darth Vader himself.
What? No, that can't be right. This has to be a trick.
I assure you this is no deception. The Death Star will not attack, so call off your forces now. I have important matters to discuss with you.
And why should we trust you?
Because this might be your only chance to talk to me, and I have decades of expertise serving the Empire.
We're sending a ship to pick you up.
Do not rush. There is business I need to take care of.
As he waits for the ship to arrive, Vader sets his men to secure the Death Star. His famed 501st still fights with him, and they go about securing hulls in critical areas. The rest of the crew are locked up or offered a chance to join him. Those who refuse to cooperate are executed on the spot as Vader places a strong guard on the bridge. He also secures the weapon systems, reactor, and hangar. From the bridge, he begins to lock down entire sections to secure the bulk of the crew while Imperial officers and other valuable targets are taken into custody. Only then does Vader allow the Millennium Falcon to dock and pick him up. When he arrives on the surface, there he is greeted with a large security force of rebel soldiers along with Obi-Wan, Luke, and Leia, who escort him inside.
All right then. What is the big idea here, Lord Vader? A few days ago you just allowed Alderaan to be destroyed by Tarkin. Now you expect me to believe that you had some change of heart?
Things have changed. You can thank your friend, General Kenobi, for that.
So what? You just come in here and expect us to forget all the terrible things you've done because you've come to apologize?
Leia, if Lord Vader comes here, we should at least consider what he has to say. What he has to offer.
I expect no such thing. That is why I bring you the Death Star. It is the Empire's greatest weapon, and with it under your control, you can render whatever forces the Empire has irrelevant.
A hush falls over the people as they stare at the Dark Lord in surprise, trying to wrap their heads around what he's just said. The same weapon that was about to destroy them and that they were trying to stop is now theirs. In the span of a heartbeat, the balance of power has just shifted completely. Leia is among those, and she looks up in surprise, but something close to interest crosses her mind.
So, you at least brought something useful.
Wait, hang on. You can't be seriously thinking about using that thing. It's too dangerous to keep that thing operational. I agree with the boy. That weapon was only meant for one thing. Destruction.
Yes, and now the Empire will know how it feels.
I will use it in whatever way the Rebel Alliance wishes.
You?
Yes, me. My condition is I shall remain its commander.
Vader glances at his daughter, feeling the fire radiating off her, directed at him, but also the Empire. He can see Padme in her, in the way she squares her jaw in determination when the odds are laid at her feet. It causes him to drop to one knee.
Your anger is justified. I have protected the Empire in the past and done its bidding to do horrific things, so let blood pay for blood. Allow me to do my part in bringing this Empire to the ground.
Unsurprisingly, that is a highly controversial demand, as the last thing any of the rebel leadership wants is having Vader command a weapon of that size, and yet the terms he offers are incredibly generous. He doesn't just provide the weapon itself, but also countless valuable hostages. The prisoners they have include high-ranking officers and government officials, and this finally pushes Leia to his side. She agrees to grant him this command, but only if he accepts a large rebel crew both to watch him and to learn how to use the station. Though Luke and Obi-Wan both try to advocate for dismantling it, They are voted down. The former Jedi Master glances at his old friend. Though the darkness in him fades, there is still confusion in him, and also unresolved anger. He may no longer be in Palpatine's clutches, but he still has a long way to go before he is Anakin Skywalker again. For the time being, their focus is on the war itself. While Obi-Wan takes the mantle of general and starts to help the rebellion plan their next moves, alongside Vader, they use their expertise during the Clone Wars to create new strategies for the Rebel Alliance. While Vader focuses on leading troops into battle, using both his starfighters and the Death Star, Obi-Wan focuses on training the rebels, aiming to improve their group tactics and discipline. Alongside them are Luke and Leia, who serve as his new students. He pays special attention to the two and begins showing them the ways of the Jedi, showing them how to use the Force and create their lightsabers. Vader tries to help and shows them more aggressive methods using the Force. He uses his powers to force information from prisoners and to channel his emotions into battle. It creates a strange balance, with Vader showing them offense and Obi-Wan focusing on defense. These reforms turn the Rebel Alliance into a powerful force as they renew their offensive against the Empire. As news spreads of the Death Star's capture, it puts immense pressure on Palpatine. Not only is this a huge loss of material and personnel, it is also a huge morale defeat as people question how they can defeat the organization now. Some begin to worry whether he can continue leading them. Seeing this, Palpatine immediately begins work on a second Death Star, but also organizes an emergency task force to recapture or destroy the space station. For this task, he places Admiral Ozzel in command, while secretly recalling Thrawn from his campaign in other parts of the galaxy. The task force begins launching a series of campaigns in Rebel territory, chasing down the Death Star to pick up its trail. He engages scout fleets and isolated units, aiming to chip away at their fleet. However, whenever they encounter the Death Star, they take heavy losses, as Vader uses its super weapon to rip through Star Destroyers. However, his other great priority is to recover the prisoners taken by the Empire. As Ozzel comes from one of the most influential families in the Empire, he has close connections to families of those captured Imperial officers, and they urge him to free his friends. Ransom negotiations are conducted, and he tries to trade other captured rebel leaders, aiming to secure a deal. But this also slows the war effort, as they must focus on making deals instead of going on the attack, for the risk of Vader killing the prisoners. Leia and Vader recognize this as they intend to take full advantage of it.
You see the potential of this battle station as well, my child.
Do not call me your child, Lord Vader. Yes, I recognize the power of the Death Star. We've destroyed more Star Destroyers in the year we've had it than we had in the past 5 years. That's something I can't ignore. It's been a game changer.
It is far more than just the Death Star, Leia. You have seen the strength in the Force. Much like me, if you accept my training, I can give you the power to bring the Empire to its knees.
You think I want to become like you?
No. Better. So that you can take my place and assume command of the Death Star. With that, it does not matter what the Empire throws at you.
Leia looks over at her father, blinking. Although she still distrusts him, the power he offers is tempting. After everything that they've done to them, she feels nothing but rage and commits herself to joining this training. He also offers the same thing to Luke, but the young Jedi is less certain, thanks to Obi-Wan's influence. He tries to speak to Vader and urges him to reconsider his training methods and keeping the Death Star, yet Vader continues to teach Leia this aggressive style. Meanwhile, soon enough, they receive reports that Thrawn is finally arriving in the front and taking command of the task force. Though Ozzel urges him to continue negotiations and to appeal to the Rebel Alliance to trade prisoners, Thrawn assures him he has a plan. They combine their fleets and begin attacking the Rebel Alliance's positions, targeting their civilian populations. This gets a reaction out of the rebels as they are forced to respond to the attack. Their entire fleet mobilizes, and the Death Star moves to intercept them as the Imperial Armada numbers almost 200 ships. All of them gather above orbit and face off against the oncoming rebels. They open fire just as the first rebel ships emerge from hyperspace. The Star Destroyer tightens ranks and forms a phalanx of ships, turbo laser fire igniting the darkness of space. Those rebel ships that appear directly in front of this killing field erupt in flames, but as the Death Star emerges, things begin to change. It shrugs off turbo laser fire and leisurely gets into position. Its laser powers up and even at partial strength shears through a Star Destroyer like it's nothing. Thrawn watches this from the rear guard, the Chimera holding position as he sends his next orders.
All forward ships advance. Second Fleet, launch fighters to keep X-Wings occupied.
Suddenly, 24 Star Destroyers under the command of Ozzel advance. They are told to hug the enemy lines in order to prevent the Death Star from firing upon them. These ships speed towards them, facing the brunt of the rebel fleet as they unleash their own turbo laser fire at point-blank range. Several go up in flames as they cannot withstand the continued barrage. The Death Star directs its weapons at them, aiming to finish them off before they can get too close. That is when Thrawn releases his remaining fighters. With the bulk of their starfighters supporting this attack, he sends a second wave to strike the Death Star directly. They swarm its weapon systems, escorting hundreds of TIE bombers as they drop their ordnance onto the dish. Hundreds of bombs go off at once, and as the Death Star fires, the weapon begins to malfunction. A power surge courses through the weapon, sending a chain reaction of explosives across the station as explosions blossom across its hull in blinding orange and red. Finally, the entire dish is consumed by an explosion, sending hundreds of tons of durasteel plates and shattered hulls flying across space. Klaxons blare in the station, and emergency systems rush into effect, desperately trying to staunch the damage. But as Vader desperately tries to handle that, the remaining Star Destroyers that are firing upon the rebel ship suddenly ignite in a series of equally blinding explosions as Thrawn ignites the hidden explosives he's planted on the ships. These take out many of the rebel ships too, and leave huge gaps in their lines. As their tattered formations become obvious, Thrawn smiles and orders his own ships forward to join the fight. This time the clash turns against the rebels, and they have no choice but to beat a hasty retreat. Vader glances as the ships hurriedly try to escape and sees Thrawn's fleet leisurely picking them off. He curses and knows the casualties will be devastating. At his side, Leia is gritting her teeth in preparation as she tries to direct the crews to use their remaining weapons to try and support them, but he knows it will not be enough.
Daughter, you must command this station.
What?
The ships will require support. I will take my starfighter and buy them whatever time I can, but there must be someone I trust to take command of the station. There is no one else I would trust but you.
She continues to look over at him, but nods as Vader takes his ship and launches the remaining starfighters for a desperate counterattack. He targets the wounded Star Destroyers and focuses them to turn their attention towards him. This allows the wounded Death Star to at last disappear into hyperspace, along with the remaining ship. Only then does Vader disappear as well, leaving the Imperials with control of the fleet. This battle was a major defeat for the Rebel Alliance and completely shattered their momentum, and the damage of the Death Star has taken will take months to repair, and that is not even mentioning the decimation that their regular fleet suffered. The air inside the Death Star's makeshift command center is thick with smoke as the technicians try to conduct hasty repairs. Vader stands before a flickering hologram. Leia paces nearby as her gaze is fixed on the casualty reports.
We've lost everything. The fleet, our momentum. We've handed Thrawn a victory.
The station is crippled. My judgment was flawed. I relied too heavily on a weapon, not a strategy.
I felt your anguish through the Force. I wouldn't be surprised if Thrawn felt it as well.
I would not be surprised. It is a heavy burden we are suffering in this war, and we must find a way out, whatever the cost.
Best calm down, you two, and do not think of something too drastic.
Ben's right. You both fought harder than anyone could have asked. But fighting the Empire isn't just about having a bigger weapon. We need to be patient and rethink our strategy.
You speak of patience, of defense. These are what led the Jedi in the Clone Wars.
No, Anakin. Arrogance and attachment lost the war. The light side has never been about passivity. It is about clarity. You have shaken the Empire's influence, but to truly return to the light, admitting your fault is the first step, but the road is long. However, you must change how you see battle. Power and strength are not the only tools you can have.
So we just hide? Wait for them to pick us apart? Because that's what Thrawn is doing.
Not hide. Outthink. You both have incredible power, but you're using it to push. Try feeling. Listen. The Force can show you where they will be, not just where they are.
Vader is silent for a long moment. The old instinct roars within him, to strike, to dominate, to answer loss with overwhelming retaliation just as the Emperor taught him. But the memory of his failure is fresh, and Obi-Wan's voice echoes true.
Very well. We will do it your way.
Slowly, Vader and Leia begin to temper their aggressive instincts, sitting with Luke and Obi-Wan in daily meditation. Here, they watch as Obi-Wan exercises patience and caution instead of continued attack. They instead direct their efforts to fighting defensively, using their better-trained soldiers to fight against supply lines and staging defensive actions against the advancing Imperial forces. They learn to extend their senses not as weapons, but to connect with others and use it to track Imperial patrols and search for weaknesses in their supply lines. They stop meeting Thrawn's fleets head-on. Instead, they stage a delay in his advance to buy them time. Vader, using his intimate knowledge of Imperial protocol, predicts mobilization orders hours before they're issued. Leia learns to channel her growing fury to rally the people, strengthening their morale and reducing the risk of desertion. But it does not make the Death Star any better. The battle station looks little more than a ghost, limping from system to system. Repair crews work around the clock, but the super laser dish is mangled ruins. Then, the intelligence arrives, an intercepted packet, almost too easily obtained, about how the Empire is creating a second Death Star.
It's a trap. He's baiting us.
It is, but the weapon is real. The Emperor is building the second Death Star. That was always the plan. Our station may still fly, a single lightspeed jump into the heart of their construction zone.
Anakin, that is a path of despair, not strategy. It is the last gasp of the hammer. Thrawn will be expecting that exact move.
He's right. We have to be smarter. He's giving us the target because he thinks we'll come crashing in. So, we'll let him think that.
A new plan takes shape. The crippled Death Star will play its part, but not as Thrawn expects.
So, a trench run? You're kidding. That was the plan for the first one. Exactly. And because we never got to do it, Palpatine and Thrawn have no prepared counter for it. Their defenses are designed to stop capital ships, not small strike teams coming under the radar. The Death Star will have every turbo laser pointed at it.
And so the Death Star and the bulk of the Rebel fleet emerges from hyperspace and throw the battle into chaos. Leia takes command of this force, engaging Thrawn's armada. She has the ship weave and rush the enemy lines, aiming not to defeat them, but to distract them and force them to focus their attention, picking them off instead of fighting the squadron beginning their attack. Obi-Wan takes command of half the fighters, piloting a starship for the first time in decades as he aims to support Leia's fleet. Thrawn, from the bridge of the Chimera, watches with analytical curiosity, his gaze locked on the wounded Death Star lingering at the edge of the conflict. Its turbo lasers continue to fire, but it primarily sponges up damage. Meanwhile, Vader, Luke, and Han streak down a narrow construction trench in the Millennium Falcon, dodging support beams and sudden volleys of point defense fire. TIE fighters swarm them as Han and Luke lead the Rebel squadron. Vader lingers behind, going from an offensive force into a defensive action, cutting down these ships that threaten his son.
The thermal exhaust port is ahead, smaller than the schematics indicated.
I can feel it. The Force is guiding us, just like you showed me, Father. Not to push, but to flow.
As they clear the trench, they enter the interior of the station itself and make their way through the narrow gaps between the pipes. Only then does Thrawn begin to realize what is happening and sends his TIE fighters to intercept them. But as they catch a glimpse of Luke's squadron and the X-Wings, Vader appears from behind and begins taking them out. As they near the reactor, Luke takes the shot, a single proton torpedo arcing into the minuscule port. For a moment, nothing. Then, a chain of internal explosions ripples through the station's superstructure, blossoming into a massive fireball that consumes the Emperor's greatest weapon. On the bridge of the Chimera, Thrawn's red eyes widen. He sees the trap too late. With a final respectful nod toward the distant Rebel command ship, he gives the order to disengage. The Imperial fleet retreats into hyperspace, leaving the Rebel Alliance victorious. Aboard the limping Death Star, Vader stands beside Obi-Wan, watching the expanding debris field through the viewport.
The patient way.
The living way, Anakin. Welcome back.
And with that, the Empire reels from another great loss. This time, Palpatine cannot easily shrug it off. Losing one Death Star was a humiliation. A second is a critical blow, especially since he has not even bothered to free the prisoners. By now, Obi-Wan and Leia begin secret negotiations with the captors' parents. They offer to release their family if they stage a coup against Palpatine. With the military losing face, the Senate losing patience, and the elite losing money, all of them rise up against him. And despite the Emperor's best efforts to keep them under control, a coup is launched, and even his own officers turn against him, putting Mas Amedda in charge and allowing negotiations to begin. Soon, the prisoners are released, and peace talks begin. Yet much of the elite shun Thrawn, who they see as extending the war, but Vader secretly recruits him instead, giving the Rebel Alliance a critical edge in their official core, and allowing them to demand the restoration of democratic norms, all while Vader and Obi-Wan focus on rebuilding the Jedi Order. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.